What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa booked for early 2023. 2023 is shaping up to be a great year for fight fans. This week, the UFC officially announced that former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker would be stepping into the octagon to defend his #1 contender status against Paulo Costa on February 11th at UFC 284. The fight is set to be the final bout on Costa's contract, putting the former middleweight title challenger in a tough position ahead of inevitable contract negotiations. Whittaker, who will have the support of Australian fans in attendance when he steps into the octagon, is of course coming off an incredibly dominant win over Marvin Vettori earlier this year at UFC Fight Night Paris, where he picked up an impressive unanimous decision win. After using the first round to feel out his opponent, Whittaker began to find holes in Vettori's game, which he exposed over the next 2 rounds. Standing across from him in the octagon will be Paulo Costa, who recently returned to the win column by defeating Luke Rockhold this summer. The win snapped a 2-fight skid that saw the Eraser lose a bid for the middleweight title at UFC 253 before then losing to Marvin Vettori the following year in a fight that saw Costa completely avoid cutting weight. Following his win over Rockhold this summer, Costa underwent surgery to repair a broken hand sustained in the bout. With the upcoming middleweight title fight between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira rapidly approaching, the winner of February's showdown between Whittaker and Costa should very well find themselves in title contention on how things play out when the two contenders meet at UFC 284. Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw trade Barbs at UFC 280 press conference. This week, the stars of UFC 280 took to the stage for the Fight Week press conference, where they fielded questions from both media members and fans. Unsurprisingly, the bad blood between bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling and former champion TJ Dillashaw quickly began to spill over as the two men traded Barbs. It was Sterling who threw the first verbal blow, pointing out that Dillashaw has largely been absent from the pre-fight UFC embedded footage. Given the fact that the embedded series follows stars of upcoming fight cards, the fact that Dillashaw hasn't been a focal point of the hit series seems fishy to the champion. Although Dillashaw initially seemed to brush off the comments, he quickly changed his tune when Sterling told him to speak like a man, which prompted a scathing response from the former champion.
He's so worried about it, he can come test me himself. He can test these nuts in his mouth. This DJ Jazzy Jeff looking motherfucker is gonna be down there saying like, test 1, 2. Is this working? He's gonna be a rapper supposedly, right? He's already been a failed actor, and now he's gonna be a failed rapper.
Throughout the build-up to the fight, Sterling has repeatedly referenced Dillashaw's previous PED suspension, going as far as to say that he's confident Dillashaw will be using PEDs when the two meet inside the cage. Despite that, UFC President Dana White surprised many fans recently when he gave Dillashaw props for coming clean about his PED usage rather than hide behind claims of tainted supplements like many fighters do in hopes of getting a pass, like fighters who are actually the victims of tainted supplements. With just days to go until the two men clash for the 135-pound title, we want to hear from you. Who do you think gets the job done in Abu Dhabi? Sound off below. Belal Muhammad says UFC declined his request for Chimaev fight. Belal Muhammad holds the rare distinction of being one of the few fighters to call for a fight with Khamzat Chimaev. Throughout the course of Chimaev's dominant run in the UFC, Muhammad has called him out time and time again, something few other welterweights have done. Although the fight seemed like an obvious booking, Muhammad was ultimately given Sean Brady as his next opponent. Ahead of his upcoming fight with Brady this weekend, where Muhammad will look to move one step closer towards earning a title shot, the streaking contender wants to set the record straight. During a recent interview on The Fighter vs. The Writer, Muhammad revealed that despite asking for a fight with Khamzat Chimaev, the UFC opted to book him to fight Sean Brady.
Sitting there like, well, Khamzat's not booked. Why am I not fighting Khamzat? That makes the most sense in the world, because at the time it was, all right, we're the only two guys in the top 5 that haven't fought Kamaru yet. You're hyping them up. I was trying to cut Khamzat fight before the Luque fight. I was like, bro, let me fight Khamzat. Even the Wonderboy fight, I was like, let me fight Khamzat. And they just kept brushing it off.
Unfortunately for Muhammad, given the fact that Chimaev missed weight for a scheduled UFC 279 bout with Nate Diaz, it sounds as though he'll next fight at middleweight. With that being said, however, the 3-time Swedish national wrestling champion seems to be pushing back on the forced move to 185, tweeting that he wanted to fight Colby Covington, and leaving many fans wondering what the future has in store for the streaking prospect. Should Muhammad manage to pick up the win on Saturday, many are expecting him to call out Chimaev, who will be in attendance in Abu Dhabi for the highly anticipated pay-per-view card. I don't know about you guys, but I might be more excited for UFC 280 than any other event this year. The card is stacked, and it should make for a crazy night. Our partners over at DraftKings, the official sports betting partner of the UFC, wanted to give new customers a crazy deal in honor of such a wild event. This Saturday, new customers that sign up using our promo code MMAZone and bet $5 on either fighter to win will get an additional $200 in free bets if you win. That's right, you get to pocket an additional $200 in free bets if your wager of $5 or more on a fighter to win hits. If you want to up the ante, combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, how long the fight will last, and more in one parlay to give you a shot at even bigger winnings. For those in a state where mobile sports betting is not available, DraftKings Daily Fantasy is giving all MMA fans a chance to cash out this weekend. For 280, we'll be betting on Yan, Dillashaw, and Islam Makhachev. Who do you have winning? DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code MMAZone, bet $5 on any UFC 280 fighter to win, and get $200 in free bets if your bet wins. That's code MMAZone this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all the latest news. Bobby Green removed from UFC roster. Fan favorite fighter Bobby Green made headlines recently when he revealed that he had taken a tainted supplement that caused him to fail a drug test from USADA. Although he was initially facing a 2-year layoff as a result of the failed drug test, Green was able to prove that the failure was the result of a supplement he purchased at Walmart. Unfortunately for Green and fight fans, that still resulted in the subsequent suspension that will sideline Green through the middle of November. As a result, he was removed from the UFC's active roster, sending fight fans into a frenzy as they wondered why he'd been pulled when his suspension would be up in under a month. But regardless of how strange this move is, it seems to be consistent with the UFC's procedures as of late. Ilir Latifi has found himself in the same position after he was handed an indefinite suspension by the Nevada State Athletic Commission following an admission that he knowingly fought Alexei Oleinik with a staph infection. After news of Latifi's suspension surfaced, he too was removed from the UFC's active roster, pending his hearing with the NSAC. For Green, however, the retroactive suspension could sideline him for the remainder of this year, depending on how soon he decides to return to active competition once his suspension is up. On the other hand, for Latifi, there's no telling how long the Nevada State Athletic Commission will suspend him for, given the fact that he knowingly subjected his opponent to an incredibly contagious and dangerous infection. When Green returns to the octagon, who do you want to see him fight? Sound off in the comments below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Dana White canceling a UFC 280 fight. It was announced this morning that Zubaida Tukhugov versus Lucas Almeida is off the UFC 280 card tomorrow. Zubaida Tukhugov pulled out due to weight management issues. What do you guys think about this? Are you excited for UFC 280? Let us know down in the comment section below. Ariel Helwani blasts Dana White for Power Slap League. Recently, UFC President Dana White made headlines when it was announced that he and former partner Lorenzo Fertitta had partnered to create the Power Slap League. With the promotion looking to host their inaugural event at the end of this year, the Nevada State Athletic Commission granted them a license to do so at the UFC Apex. The move was one that left the MMA community collectively scratching their heads, given the fact that many thought the promotion's next endeavor would be Zuffa boxing rather than a controversial competition like the Power Slap League. The way longtime MMA Journalist of the Year Ariel Helwani sees things, White and Fertitta getting into slap fighting is incredibly hypocritical, given the fact that there's no possible way for competitors to avoid significant brain damage. For those unfamiliar, The competition consists of two competitors standing face to face, trading slaps while holding onto a table. The first one to let go and fall to the ground loses. It's something that's continued to make the rounds on social media, with celebrities like Logan Paul and Arnold Schwarzenegger attending events to watch this entertainment. During a recent episode of the MMA Hour, Helwani fielded questions from fans, resulting in him weighing in on this controversial competition.
You can never talk to us about your interest and your passion and your desire to keep fighters as healthy as possible and to shy away from brain trauma, brain injury, and CTE and concussions, and then go and promote slap fighting. Because in the sport of fighting, like boxing, MMA, defense is paramount, right? Like you're supposed to not try to get hit. Of course, knockouts, all that type of stuff, they're promoted, but ultimately what we want are for the fighters to be safe and healthy. Here, there's nothing else. Defense is not promoted. There is no defense. You just have to take it. You just have to literally take it and hope that you don't get knocked out.
With the Power Slap League set to make its debut before the end of the year, only time will tell whether fight fans embrace the controversial competition. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.